To the officers of the 𝙤𝙑𝙤𝙤𝙠 Ontario Provincial Police, listen closely because I'm only saying this once. I remember every second of that day a year ago, right there in front of the 𝙖𝙪𝙤𝙪 Fire Hall. You sat across the road in your cruiser, eyes locked on me like I was prey. You leaned in and spat those words straight into my face. If you think the ministry will help you this time, think again. Where we are sending you, you'll have a lot of time to think about reporting us again. I looked you dead in the eyes and answered, if that's the case, I'll be taking these matters outside the country. You smirked and asked, what do you mean by that? I simply replied, you'll find out, and I kept my word. While you had me locked away in that North Bay psychiatric hellhole, I wrote a 15-page letter to my source beyond Canada's borders. I told them exactly where to start. Toronto, the rotten heart of it all. I knew that lighting the fuse there would force a chain reaction, a Canada-wide investigation into police corruption and brutality that would eventually swallow every detachment, including your little outpost in New Liskeard. You thought you were clever, isolating me. Instead, you gave me the perfect cover to strike from the shadows. Now the probe is here. Every badge, every cruiser, every department from Toronto to the smallest northern post is under the microscope because of what I set in motion. You didn't just target some random citizen that day. You targeted the one man who would make you pay in the only currency that truly hurts: exposure. Your arrogance wrote the warrant for your own reckoning. You pumped me full of pharmaceuticals, 5 handfuls of pills and 5 injections in under 45 minutes, trying to chemically break me. I collapsed into a coma for a week. When I woke up, I kept fighting. Nurses quit on the spot after I showed them the truth of the machine you serve. One told night shift she couldn't stomach what she saw and walked out, leaving you short-handed. Your weapons, drugs, isolation, intimidation failed. They always will. I am the captain of this ship. No chemical can steer me. So tell me, officers, was it worth it? Was it worth the ego trip of crushing one man who refused to bow? Look around now. City police, provincial police, RCMP, all of you are burning under the same light you thought you controlled. Toronto was just the example, the shiny distraction I fed you so the real investigation could spread like blood in water. I told you I was taking it outside the country. You laughed. Are you laughing now? Your partner tried to do the right thing that day behind the cruiser. He said, we have nothing on this kid. He ain't guilty of anything. You shut him down. We're too far into this now. We have to make a plan. That was your choice. Now live with it. You think your badge makes you untouchable kings. I see scared little men on a checkers board while I play chess on a level you can't even comprehend. Your famous line, everything you say and do can and will be used against you in a court of law, is now a blade turned back on you. Every corrupt move, every act of brutality, every lie is being recorded and weaponized. I'm still here. I take the pills they want me to take, not because they control me, but because it strips away your last pathetic excuse. You can't lock me up for non-compliance anymore. You have nothing left, and still I fight. This is personal. You made it personal the moment you chose to break me instead of protect me. Now the entire system you hide behind is cracking, and the eyes of the country and beyond are watching your every twitch. We will find every one of you who thought the law didn't apply. The king is exposed. The pawns are falling. Enjoy the fire you lit the day you targeted me. I warned you exactly what would happen, and you laughed. Are you laughing now? Sincerely, Wally, the man who dragged your corruption into the daylight.
They want an apology. Have you noticed? The way they stand there with their arms crossed and their mouths tight, waiting for you to say the words. Sorry. I'm sorry for what I became. I'm sorry I'm not the man you remember. I'm sorry the soft thing you used to walk all over grew teeth and started biting back. They want the apology like it's owed. Like it was written into a contract you signed when you were too young and too trusting and too stupid with your own kindness to read the fine print. And the fine print said this: you will remain gentle. You will remain open. You will continue to bleed quietly and never ask anyone to hand you a bandage. You will let them take and take and take. And when there is nothing left, you will find more to give. And you will smile while you do it. That was the deal. That was the man they built their comfort around. And when that man stopped showing up, when something harder and colder walked through the door wearing his face with none of his softness, they panicked. Not because they lost something they loved, because they lost something they used. Why should I apologize for the monster I became? They never did. Not once. Not a whisper. Not a single syllable of accountability from the mouths that taught me what cruelty sounds like when it wears the voice of someone who was supposed to love you. They walked through my life like it was a house they were renting, knocked holes in every wall, broke what they felt like breaking, and left without cleaning up the glass. And now they stand in the doorway of what I've become and say I've changed, like I'm the one who needs to explain something. I don't explain anymore. Explaining is what the old version did. The one who thought that if he could just make them understand, just find the right combination of words, the right tone, the right amount of vulnerability served on a clean plate, that they'd finally see him, finally hear him, finally stop. He explained himself hoarse, explained himself empty, explained himself into a corner so small he forgot what it felt like to stand at full height. And they listened the way people listen to rain. Background noise. Something happening outside that doesn't require a response. So I stopped. And the silence that followed was the first honest thing I ever gave them. You want to know how a monster is made? I'll tell you. It's not a single moment. That's the lie they sell in stories so the audience has something clean to point at. In real life, monsters are made the way rust is made. Slowly, exposed to the same corrosive thing, day after day after day, until the original surface is unrecognizable. You don't notice rust forming. You just look up one morning and the thing that used to shine is something else entirely. Something rougher. Something that stains your hands when you touch it. They were the rain. Every lie was moisture. Every betrayal was salt. Every time they took my loyalty and snapped it like a wishbone and kept the bigger half for themselves. That was another day of exposure. And I stood in it, unprotected, because I thought that's what strong men do. Stand in the rain, take it, endure. Don't flinch, don't leave. Don't you dare leave, because leaving means you're weak, and you'd rather corrode standing up than survive on your knees. So I corroded. And what's underneath corrosion isn't pretty, it isn't soft. It's raw metal that's been stripped of everything decorative, everything pleasant, everything people like to look at. But it's still standing, uglier than before, harder than before, and no longer interested in being admired. That's the monster, not some creature from the dark. Just a man who ran out of reasons to be gentle with a world that was never gentle with him. And they want me to apologize for that. The same people who watched me drown and told me the water wasn't that deep. The same people who handed me a lit match and called it love. The same people who carved their names into my chest and then accused me of being scarred. Those people want an apology. From me, I could laugh. Some nights I almost do. There is a specific cruelty in being soft in a world that punishes it. Nobody warns you. Nobody sits you down at the start and says, listen, the kindness you're carrying, it has a price, and the price isn't fair, and it isn't equal, and the people collecting it will never tell you they're taking more than they're giving. Nobody says that. You figure it out the way you figure out fire, by burning. I burned for years, kept my hands open when they should have been fists. Kept my door open when the locks were right there, ready. Kept my heart open like some kind of public highway, and every person who drove through left tire marks on something I can never resurface. That was my fault, they'll say. And maybe it was. Maybe the first time, maybe even the second. But by the 15th, by the 20th, that's not a pattern of naivety anymore. That's a man being hunted by the same lesson, until he finally sits down and learns it in blood. The lesson was this: stop giving yourself to people who would step over your body to get to something more convenient. I learned it. I learned it so deep it changed my chemistry, changed the way I walk into a room, changed the way I hear the word promise, changed the way I look at open hands, because I know now that open hands are just closed fists that haven't decided yet. And that knowledge, that ugly earned, permanent knowledge, that's the thing they call monstrous. Not what was done to me, what I became because of it. They never apologized for teaching me that love is conditional. Never apologized for showing me that loyalty is a transaction most people only honor when it's cheap. Never apologized for the nights I spent staring at walls in rooms so quiet I could hear my own blood trying to decide if it still wanted to move through my veins. They never said sorry for the silence when I needed a voice. Never said sorry for the absence when I needed a presence. Never said sorry for the way they made me feel like a burden for having the audacity to need them the way they trained me to. But I should apologize for surviving it wrong, for not coming out the other side soft and forgiving and full of grace and gratitude, like some kind of saint who thanks the fire for the warmth while his skin is still melting. No, the monster does not apologize to the people who built him. The blade does not apologize to the hands that hammered it. The flood does not send a letter of regret to the dam that cracked. The thing that emerges from destruction carries no guilt for the shape it takes, because the shape was never a choice. It was a consequence. I am a consequence, not of my own making, of theirs. Every cold word, every turned back, every promise that dissolved the moment it cost them something real. I am the accumulated weight of everything they did and refused to name. I am the receipt for a debt they pretended they never ran up. And when they look at me now, when they see the hard eyes and the locked jaw and the way I measure people before I let them within arm's reach, they're not looking at a monster, they're looking in a mirror. They just don't recognize what's staring back. So no, I will not soften this. I will not sand the edges down so it fits inside their version of the story. The version where they were just imperfect, just human, just doing their best. Their best left me reconstructing a self out of wreckage, at an age when I should have been building one out of love. Their best taught me that the only person who will ever stay is the one looking back at me in the glass. Their best made sure I would never again confuse proximity with loyalty, presence with love, or silence with peace. I learned the difference between those things the hard way, and now I carry the lesson like a scar I refuse to cover. You want me to apologize for the monster I became, but I am not the author of this story. I am just the ending nobody planned for. The one who was supposed to stay broken, the one who was supposed to fade out quietly and never confront anyone with the evidence of what they did. They wanted me to disappear with the wound still open and the blame still sitting in my lap, like a child I didn't ask for. I didn't disappear. I became, and what I became has no room for apologies. Not for them, not for the world that watched, not for the God who let it happen so I could become something with enough iron in its spine to stand in rooms that used to flatten me. I do not owe them my softness. I spent it, all of it. Every last grain, spent it on people who pocketed it and gave me nothing back but the education. And now the vault is empty and the door is welded shut, and the man standing guard over it doesn't negotiate. They can call me monster, they can call me cold, they can call me whatever word makes them feel like the victim in a story where they held the blade the entire time. I will not apologize, not today, not when I'm old and tired, and the weight of all this finally settles into my bones like a second skeleton. Not on my deathbed. Not in the silence after. Never. Because the monster I became is the only thing that saved me. And you do not apologize for the thing that kept you alive when everything else, every person, every belief, every version of love you were ever sold, tried to kill you quietly and call it your fault. They never apologized for making me. So I will never apologize for becoming. And if that keeps them up at night, good. Now they know what it feels like